Greetings to everyone. I'm glad that your curiosity to know more about this most awaited feature of Identity Services Engine has brought you to this particular video. In this video, I'm going to talk about Identity Services Engine and Agentless Posture. I'm going to do the video in a single shot but in two parts for some audience who are more interested just to see how agentless posturing works. So the first section is primarily going to talk about agentless posture in action, and I would also touch on a complementary feature on the UI, or what enhancement is done on UI, only one of the feature. And for the audience who is more interested to know how this was actually configured, which will be in the second part of the same video, right? So let's get let's get started. So in this case, I am at Identity Services Engine UI. This is version 3.0 of ICE, and in particular, I'm going to talk about the ICE menu. So there's a big change. This is ICE ha hamburger menu. Then we have small mega menus over here. These used to be separate, right? You can click on each of them. On top, you see search, which is a search bar to search for the menu items like posture. So all the items where posture word is referred is there, and I can click on any of them to go to, like, for example, posture. Now this is the regular page that you, if you are already ICE user, you are aware of this. Then on the left hand side, we have this menu for to list of recently visited pages. So I recently visited results, so that's already there. At the bottom, you have the shortcuts. To expand, you can plus control slash, and that will expand like this. And you can click escape to close the menu. Right, so this is the hamburger menu. You can still visit it like you used to do on anything prior to ICE 3.0. So I'm going to click on posture overview here, and here on Identity Services Engine, the all the steps what you may need, if even if you're new to ICE, for configuring posture are already given here. Step one, prepare, define, and then you can go live to monitor the results, for which there are multiple steps. But as promised, let's take a look at how is the end user experience for the audience who is more interested to see agentless posture. And then now after that, in the second part, I will be walking you through each step. How did I set it up so to get the results? I have a machine here. Now this is a switch which is already added. You're looking at 101, which is already in shutdown state. The machine is already connected. Let let's try to no shut this interface, no shutdown. Okay, and now you start to see the message. The interface is brought up, and yeah, there you go. And let's look at the authentication session details on this interface 1/1. You can see .1x is running. Let's go back to the endpoint. So here is the endpoint, what we are going to try, and from user end user experience, I am going to key in the username over here, followed by the password, and you realize I am connected. So the machine is connected, and this is completely transparent. There is no agent in this case. The machine would go through the normal ICE process. It joins the network through .1x, goes through the first profile where the posture is probably unknown, is subjected to client provisioning policy, goes for posture check, posture policy. After policy evaluation, it may either fall into one of the two, either compliant or non-compliant. So we return back to the switch, and if I show you the policy over here, you can see uh, there is an IP address. The local admin what we use for connecting is already identified. Service template is there. 50.200 was the IP address assigned, and .1x auth is successful. Now let's look at operations and radius live log, which is where you will get the authentication results for the recent login attempt. So if let me just try to filter this out. So click on status filter here, and we only look at what passed the authentication. So if you see here, there was an authorization profile for Agentless Posture, and we let me just expand this for you, this particular column. So it's still on 6101, not applicable. That's the posture compliance status, and later on it's marked as compliant. And if you see the top result, which points to permit access, the last one as agentless posture authorization. So this is where it started. It first got this result, and let me just show you more details on the same record. So if you see, it shows as agentless posture authorization. That's the result, and uh, it's profiled. We are, if you see, posture status is not applicable, and what else? Yeah, this we anyway saw agentless posture policy. For and yeah, and essential license is what is consumed at this point, which means posture has not yet happened, at least in this other results. So first then you see was a COA happen, change of authorization, dynamic authorization is there, right? It succeeded, and this is when the posture is compliant. So what is the reason for this change of authorization? The reason is the posture status changed. Initially, when the authorization profile was given of agentless, there was it was not profiled at that particular point, and then yeah. So you see here, agentless posture is compliant, and the endpoint was given permit access. It's the same endpoint. COA happened, and then it was given another profile which says permit access, and complete access is granted based on the posture check of the profile. For this, I will talk about this, but endpoint profile plays an important role. And you can see it was we tested on wired network, and it was compliant. And what else can I show you here? Let's scroll. And lastly, if you see, the license is advantage. So ISE 3.0 also brings changes in terms of the licensing as well. Earlier it was essential license, and now it is advantage, which confirms that the posture check was done. So thank you for staying back and watching this video till this point. As promised, right in the beginning of the video, I have tried talking about one UI feature on hamburger menu and mega menus, how you can use search to navigate. And I tried demonstrating how is the user experience in case of agentless posturing on Identity Services Engine 3.0. Now, if you are one of those audience who is more curious to know how was this actually done, in the subsequent in the remaining part of this video, I am actually going to talk about how was this done. So we start with posture. So we start with posture. We go to posture menu here and overview. As explained, right, Identity Services Engine overview page will give you all the steps that you may need to properly configure the posture policy, prepare, define, and then you can go live and start monitoring the reports of posture policies. The first thing is you need to add the device we click, right? And that's what we would try to do. So there are all the elements are listed down here in the menu. for each of these main steps, step 1, 2, and 3. So we click on network device because we want to add that switch which we use for authentication. So I click on the add device and I try to add this device. It's basically a catalyst switch that I'm using from the lab. So let's name that up quickly. So catalyst 3K access, and that's a typo. Let me just get. Then you can add a description describing this particular switch. We try to describe and add IP address. If you have already done this, you can add model software and all. But we scroll down to radius authentication setting because this is where we want to configure the shared secret key. This is already done on the switch, so the switch side configuration really there is no change. Whatever you have been using, it's all same. I have the shared secret already added. For change of authorization, we'll be using port UDP for 1700 as the port number. Pretty much all the settings remain same. I'm just gonna go scroll down to the bottom of this page and submit this change. So network device is something that is added here. So remember 100.1 is the IP address of the switch, and this is the switch port number 1/1 is where we are going to try testing the endpoint for agentless posture. Next, we click on the settings because we want to download, go to software updates. We click on software update over here, and then we click on posture updates. So we want to go and get the latest posture updates. So it's web, which means we want to get it from internet. This URL is anyway populated. All you got to do is click on update now. So as you can see, right, it was done at 1701, but I'm clicking on updating. So this will run in backend. We will go visit other pages and complete the remaining steps. So let's go to client provisioning, client provisioning policy, right? By default, ISE 3.0 comes with agentless plugin for both Windows and Mac endpoints. So we click on client provisioning policies on the left, and you can see on the client provisioning policy page right over here, you can see couple of rules already defined that what kind of results basically the plugin or the software that should be used for which sort of endpoint. So Windows, this is already there, but what we are going to do is we will replicate this. We'll make a copy of this because we don't want to use any agent. We want to do it using agentless, right? So we click on duplicate above, just click on duplicate above and make sure there is a rule created. I am disabling this one. This was the original one. I am disabling this one just for testing. You can still keep that up. And the copy of this is what I'm going to edit. And I'm going to bind the Agentless plugin which has already come with ICE 3.0 by default. It's already renamed Windows Agentless, and now I'm going to go to the results and and edit this. And the first one over here, I'm going to select what is already available, which is Agentless Windows plugin for which is already there in ICE 3.0. So I just select that and use that and save it. So click on done and then click on save. So rest of the things remain same. This is the only one change you would need for the plugin. Do similar thing for Mac, but I'm not going to cover that up here. But yeah, just make a copy and edit that. So save this. So response are saved. We have our new client provisioning policy for agentless posture for Windows operating system. The plugins are ready. So this is what I was talking about. In the resources, if you will go, you will realize these things are already there for Mac, for Windows. The plugin is already available. Now I'm going to go to users. Just for the testing purpose, I'm going to create a local user on the ICE only, but don't worry. Next prod probably I'll try to cover external authentication also, but I'm just using local admin. This was the user I used in the demo earlier. Let me complete this. So the user is already added. We will be using this same user to log in into the endpoint. Now, once this is done, something which is slightly different compared to the older versions is let's go to endpoint scripts, and it already populates. So that's the hamburger menu search feature. We go to endpoint scripts over here and we try to give in the same username and password. You can also come via admin system and settings. It's that's another way, but I because I knew I just jumped here. But so endpoint scripts, login configuration, and this is where you give the endpoint details so that ICE can go get in touch with the endpoint and can do the posture check. So I'm just going to key in the login detail over here and save these changes, and we hit save, and that's something that is already saved. Next step from here is to go to work center, and we can go back to overview. So if you try to see the next step over here, we are essentially going to create different policies, right? We need to create different conditions and different results for those whenever those conditions are met. So this is something that we can do under policy elements, right? And you can click on results and authorization profile. So authorization profiles is right here. We click on authorization profiles. The actual path would be policy elements, results, authorization, and authorization profile. There is nothing here that we may be able to use. So for that reason, I'm going to create one. Like for example, if you see permit access already exists, but we may not be able to reuse it or duplicate it. So we create one what we need. So click on add. So the first one what we will need here is when the endpoint connects, we want the endpoint to use a profile which will track agentless it for agentless posture. Exactly. So I give a name here, and the key thing in this profile, let me just rename it something small. Okay, agentless posture auth. So this is something you were able to see in the demonstration earlier. I'm just adding a description to this agentless profile for age authorization profile for agentless posture, right? You can bind DACLs, you can bind VLANs, you can bind mm, uh, other profiles to this. But in this particular case, what I'm going to do is the key things that we need for testing this out, this demo is the flag. So over here you see agentless posture. There is a flag already existing. You must make sure that this is something that is enabled. This is all is needed. So there is an endpoint, there is no agent, it connects. We want to do a posture without any agent. This is the profile that should get matched. So this is the authorization profile that should get returned. We are sending radius access accept as a message. This is where it hits. It will start putting it under agentless posture. Let's create one more. This is restricted access. I'm going to name it as restricted access, and I'm going to make use of the pre-built DACL on ICE already. Nothing extra needed here. This could be whatever. I mean, you want to put the user in some quarantine zone or something of that sort where the user can still access certain servers in your environment, can still access your ticketing portals and so on. You can do that, but in my case, I'm just going to use the DACL which is already there. So I click on DACL here and I'm going to use deny all IPv4 traffic. This already does exist on ICE, so you don't have to put effort creating this. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. This is second. If the posture fails, this is what you get. You get restricted access. So I've clicked on submit and that profile is also saved. Right. Again, I can't use this because this gives access reject. Right. So I've just created one more for me access restricted access, and I'm actually sending radius access accept sorry message, but sending a deny ACL as well. Now let's go and create the policies in the same order. So I'm going to go to policy set. Under policy set, I'm going to go to the default authorization policy. So let I expand authorization policy over here. Now this is already there. This again is something that comes pre-built, but what we are going to do is we're going to add three rules in this policy. The three rules will be added. Let me just add those first. So this one is agentless posture. Let me just rename it agentless policy. And we got to agentless posture policy. We got to add a condition. So click on the condition over here, the plus sign. This these are the help option you will get if you're visiting it for the first time. Quickly just filtered wired 802.1x. The condition already exists on ICE pre-built. Just drag and drop to the right inside. We are good. So the condition is if it is wired 802.1x, that's what you are doing. We use this pre-built condition, no effort. We already created profile, right? So agentless posture. This was the profile where we had that agentless posture flag. So it will track it this particular flow under agentless posture. And if you have some security group tags defined, you can add them in the next column, but I'm not going to do that in this case. Quickly click on this and say duplicate above. So we insert one more rule above. This rule is for posture when posture status is compliant. When it is the endpoint is compliant, we just again add one more condition here. So like before, just make use of the conditions already there. Compliant device. So if the condition is the device is compliant, in that case you select and give permit access. So we go to profile. This profile already does exist. I don't have to redefine. You can actually type in here permit access and that will give you the result and just select it. Again, once permitted, if the machine or the user belongs to some particular group, you can configure or add security group tag as well. That will help you achieve microsegmentation. I create one more. I just click on duplicate above, and this is when the endpoint is marked to be non-compliant, right? If the posture status is returned as non-compliant, we had created one more profile for restricted access. That's the profile we are going to give to this particular policy. So quickly slide change. I'm going to delete this condition here and add the right condition what we need, which says for so that condition should be for non-compliant, which is here, and we use it. And now I'm going to just change this, remove this, and add the restricted access profile. So this is the one. And again, if you had some SGT, you can apply the security group tag. So in short, three policies. First time when you come, you hit agentless posture policy, which will put you on agentless posture workflow. Then you go basis of whatever is returned, a CO change of authorization will happen, which will either put you in compliant or non-compliant. And now I'm going to save this policy. So three policy added, three policy saved. Now quickly show you posture policy. Obviously you are checking posture, so there should be a policy for evaluating checking the posture condition, which is something defined under posture policy. So let me just quickly add one posture policy here. So here is the condition. I have named it as application policy. It is applicable to Windows. The compliance module I'm going to use is 4.xor later. The posture type is set to agentless. And now I have some set of requirements already in place. I'm going to go and quickly select those requirements. So click on select requirement there. So I'm just adding a requirement here, which is application requirement. I'm calling it as application requirement for agentless. Operating system is Windows, compliance module, type, and then just scroll to the right. So I've already created that condition. So I'm just going to go to application condition over here and select that condition what I'd created. So I'd created condition for checking certain applications on the Windows endpoints. That's my condition that I'm going to evaluate, and I do save and select. So that's saved. It's already added here. You can click on done, and then you can save this policy as well. So just to show you, this is the policy I just added, and I'm gonna click on save. So the new policy is added. It's at the top. Always these policies, posture policies, can have multiple checks in a go, but in this case, because it's agentless, the only thing is the first row is what will get hit. Now, besides all of this, you would need couple of settings on the endpoint also. I'm not going to cover this. This is covered in my other videos also, how to set up .1x on endpoints and other things. Those are needed. Let me just show you what other things you need which are critical for this to work. So you need to go to Windows Defender Firewall or your Windows Firewall. You need to first add a rule here, okay? And this rule, to be precise, has to be a TCP rule which will allow inbound remote PowerShell. You can make it more restrictive and allow only Identity Services Engine IP address over here. And then you need to enable PS remoting so that ICE can connect with the endpoint, deliver the plugin, and the plugin should be able to gather all the details as part of this posture, right? And and this is the point where I had started my demonstration, right? Port 1/1, where we go to port 1/1 and we do a no shut to this particular port, and I had demonstrated you the end user experience. And now let me just show you the context visibility. So you can go to endpoints, and whatever we just evaluated, you can see the endpoint, that one endpoint is connected. This is that endpoint, status is up, green. We use the local admin as the user. .1x was done. Agentless posture, the profile we created is what is assigned to this particular endpoint. You can click on compliance tab here. That should give you the compliance status. It's 100% compliant. It's a workstation. Again, profiling is really important. 29 applications are installed, what I wanted to check, and one of them is already running. It's a Windows 10 professional 64-bit operating system on the endpoint. Right? You can click on these 29 and that should give you the complete application checks that were done on this particular endpoint, right? Windows Firewall to anything that was there on the endpoint. Attributes of these endpoints, what we checked, what we evaluated, we know it's a Microsoft workstation, Windows 10, 64-bit. If you do other thread TCNAC integration, where we support Rapid7, Qualys, and other vulnerability assessment tool, you can chain those as well. I showed you uh, what license was used. It's Advantage license because we are doing posturing. So the licensing is something that is changed. Going to application in specific, yep, this will give you the category wise what anti-phishing, anti-malware, backup related, browser, what browsers were there. So applications and their category wise classification is something available under context visibility application tab. So thank you for spending your time. I hope you find this video useful. In the next video, I'm going to talk about one more feature of Identity Services Engine, which is right here in the top right of ISE 3.0 menu, which is about running the endpoint scripts. Right. So do find out some time to watch what do we do in run endpoint scripts, right, and how to set it up, how to configure it, and how to use it. This is Sandeep Yadav signing off until we meet again.